There's always fun trends in photography. Right now we are loving a good film moment. In my opinion, you want to balance fun trends and timeless photos. And it's so important to me to have a photographer that knows how to do both. If you walk away from your wedding and you have all these really cool blurry shots, but you have no really great picture of you and your parents, while in the moment that family photo may not feel significant, let me tell you, as someone who's been married for over a decade, when I look back on those photos from our wedding, some of the most precious photos are the ones with me and my grandparents. My great grandma was at our wedding and she's no longer with us. And the photo of us with her is so important.
Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning.
Welcome to The Wedding Plan. My name is Tyler Spire, and me and my team produce bespoke events across the globe. This podcast is where I share key advice for planning your own wedding, as well as behind-the-scenes adventures and stories from the events we produce. Hey friends, welcome to The Wedding Plan. This season, we are taking a step-by-step approach through the wedding planning process, and I am sharing my insights, tips, and tricks, having done this for 16 years all across the world. And so if you are a couple and you are engaged in planning your wedding, I'm hoping you are finding these episodes helpful. Please send questions, send comments. Happy to address those in future episodes. And if you are a wedding professional, whether you are a planner wanting to learn a little bit about me and my process, or whether you are another wedding vendor in a different facet of the industry, just learning about all these different planning processes, you are so welcome here. And it's so fun to be sharing this information with you. So in our last episode, we talked about save the dates. We've talked about the sort of beginning steps of planning a wedding. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit in the coming episodes and talk about booking the right team. So you have your venue, you have your planner, you have your guest list, kind of all these things are done. And now it is time to build the team of professionals that is going to bring your wedding day to life. Now, in any high stakes, amazing moment, project, whatever it is, having the right team is crucial. If you're building a home, you need the right architect, you need the right contractor, you need the right tile worker. We're in the middle of a remodel right now, so like all of these things are fresh on my mind, right? If you are at a project at work and it has a large team and you're bringing in subcontractors and other things, you need the right people to pull it off. And we all know how it goes when you're on a team or doing something collaborative and the people you are working with, maybe there is a weak link in the chain, or there's a person that's just not that great or that's difficult. And on your wedding day, we have such a short amount of time, right? 6 to 8 hours, sometimes a little bit more. But you do all this planning, all this work, invest all this money, and you have an extremely small window of how and when and where and all the things to pull it off. And so it is so vital that you line up the right team, not only in their styles, but also in their personalities and how professional they are, all of these things to make your wedding day seamless. One of the first vendors or artists that we book as a part of our planning process is the photographer. Now, wedding photos, as we all know, are so important. You walk away from your day with your photos. And, I think of like the early days for me when I started falling in love with weddings. And I remember looking at my grandparents' wedding photos, at my great grandma's wedding photos with the bridesmaids. They were holding these like bird cages with cascading flowers. And I remember thinking, that is so cool. I remember looking at the wedding photos from Princess Diana's wedding, right? And like that gorgeous dress. And I remember noticing like the lilies crawling up the pillars of the cathedral. And photos are just what we walk away with. They're amazing. They're iconic. And having the right photographer is so crucial to the success of a wedding day. And so when I am working with my couples and we start talking about booking the right photographer, I have 3 things that I look for. Number 1 is the style. And that's kind of what most of us think of when we think of booking a photographer, like, oh, I want to get the right style. The next thing I think of is professionalism. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But how are they not only as an artist, but also as a business owner, also as a collaborator. How are they communicating? Because all of that's going to matter as well. And then finally, their personality, which is a little bit more subjective, but it's really important to make sure that you get along well with your photographer. So I'm going to dive into all of those. First of all, style. And again, this is usually what we think of first when we think of booking a photographer. I know a lot of my couples will be like, ooh, I like, this kind of style of photography, or I want it to feel like this or something like that. And there's a lot of different styles out there. And I am not speaking today as a photographer. So I am a planner, and I kind of categorize the styles to help my clients kind of narrow down the different options. There are photos that are really bright. There are photos that are very like journalistic. There are photos that are captured on film. There are photos that are darker and moodier. There's all these different styles and kind of nuances in style. And the first step for me in deciding on the right photography fit is looking at various images, having a couple look at various images. If you are a couple looking at various images, whether that's on Pinterest, on Instagram, in your planner's portfolio, your venue's portfolio, and just see if there's any styles that are speaking to you, that are drawing you in. Choosing a style, just like in anything, especially in the creative realm, is so subjective. And you may be drawn to photos that are like darker and grainier and kind of captured in more of like a retro way. You may be drawn into photos that are really bright, photos that are really timeless, really elegant. There's kind of all of these descriptors that will come with various types of photography. And finding what you are drawn to is really important. And that's the first step, right? What are we drawn to? Now, I firmly believe that any photographer who has a business that is going along can capture some really amazing moments, right? You can walk away from a wedding, and no matter what, unless they're really not a good photographer, they can capture 12 to 24 hero images that are just amazing. And those are often what we see on Instagram and on websites. My next question for considering a photographer and looking into this is, okay, we love their style, but what does a full gallery look like? You could take amazing portraits, but what do the ceremony images look like? What do the detail shots look like? What do the late night dancing shots look like? Is this photographer able to capture an entire day and document the whole experience, not just take 3 really amazing sunset photos, right? And because photography in the wedding world is different than like on a styled shoot. It's different than a production shoot. It's just different because we have a very finite amount of time. We've done production shoots, we've done branding shoots for, various big brands across the country, and it's just a different experience. You have the flexibility sometimes to wait for the right light. You have the flexibility to, if wardrobe's taking a little longer, you just shift. Sometimes it's a multi-day production shoot, right? And wedding days are different because it's a very finite amount of time. And rain or shine, fog or sunshine, bright light or unexpected, wind, whatever it is, that day needs to be captured beautifully from start to finish. And yes, while you're realistically only going to frame, a few photos around the house, only so many end up in your wedding album, only so many you'll share with family and friends, maybe on social media, making sure the entire day is documented is so important. So when we refer photographers to our couples, often they're people we've worked with and we know what the full galleries looked like because we've seen that final result. But whenever it's someone new, we request to see a full gallery just to see sort of the documentation of the day from start to finish and what that end all deliverable looks like. Because let me tell you, friends, we have interviewed photographers before on behalf of our clients, or our clients have looked into photographers and we said, this style is so cool. And then we get the gallery and we're like, yeah, there were like 20 really great shots in there, but the rest of the gallery did not feel that way. And so if you're a photographer listening to this, it's so important to make sure that documentation from start to finish on wedding day is consistent and beautiful and intentional. And if you're a couple, it's important to make sure that you're not just falling in love with the shiny cover photo. We need to make sure that the product that we are receiving, the gallery of images after your wedding, will be reflective of the story of your day. The next question I like to ask is, there's always fun trends in photography. Right now we are loving a good film moment. We're loving some good blurry shots. I love a good photo of just raw emotion showing the energy of the day. They're high fashion moments that feel vogue. All of these things are so fun in photography. A lot of flash. Love it. Love all of it. And what I like to remind my couples is that yes, something may be trendy, but you need to ask yourself, will I love these photos, this trend in 10 years? What about 20 years? 30, 40, 50, right? In my opinion, you want to balance fun trends and timeless photos. And it's so important to me to have a photographer that knows how to do both. If you walk away from your wedding and you have all these really cool blurry shots and, fun high fashion moments in your dress or your attire, and you have fun shots of the guests, but you have no really great picture of you and your parents or you and your grandparents or you and your family and loved ones. While in the moment, that first photo you get back from your wedding, that family photo may not feel significant. Let me tell you, as someone who's been married for over a decade, when I look back on those photos from our wedding, some of the most precious photos are the ones with me and my grandparents. My great grandma was at our wedding and she's no longer with us. And the photo of us with her is so important. And so there is a trend right now. We're seeing this a lot with some of our couples who are like, we want to hire a photographer who's not a wedding photographer. We want it to be edgy. We want it to be different. And I am always a fan of pushing the envelope with design. I think that is so fun. However, if you are going to hire a photographer that does not do weddings professionally, it is imperative that that photographer understand the timing of the day and be able to capture some of those more timeless shots, because 20 years from now, you're going to want those photos too. So again, if something's trendy, I think that's wonderful. But I think it's important to think to yourself, will this matter in 10 years? Will this matter in 20 years? Like so on and so forth. Okay, so you found a photographer and you love their style, you love their gallery, you feel like they can capture sort of the moments that you're looking for, but also get those timeless shots that are going to stand the test of time. And now, what's the next step? For us, we say you need to set up a call, a FaceTime, an in-person meeting, something with that photographer to check two things. One, personality, and two, professionalism. I'm going to start with professionalism. On wedding day, as I said earlier, we have such a finite amount of time to produce a really incredible event. And we are all in the real world and unexpected things happen. Traffic, delays, weather, fashion issues, whatever it is, things come up. That is real life. And for me, what defines a really great partner and vendor is not someone who knows how to do a wedding day that all goes perfectly. It's someone who knows how to navigate when things go south. I have worked weddings where when the weather picks up, the photographer has gotten super stressed out. And in front of the clients, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do. And let me tell you, friends, if you are a vendor listening to this, the number one responsibility, in my opinion, for a wedding vendor team is first just doing your dang job. But secondly, is maintaining a professional, a positive, a problem-solving, a team-oriented approach from start to finish. Whether shit is hitting the fan or everything is going well, you carry yourself with peace, joy, and flexibility. Of course, on the inside, we can be like, shoot, I don't know if we're going to be able to get this shot because there's a giant windstorm. This is happening. What can you do to creatively brainstorm, to creatively problem solve, to still make things happen, to still keep that couple smiling, and to still make it the best day of their lives? And professionalism is so key in that. And part of professionalism, guys, is having the experience. I get couples sometimes that'll be like, oh, I really like this photographer, and they're like way cheaper than everybody else, and maybe we're going to go that direction to save some money, and they're a little bit newer to the industry. We like their fresh approach, and I love that. And friends, I will never say don't hire someone new, because once upon a time we were new and people took leaps of faith on us. Businesses do not grow. We do not thrive. We do not get our portfolios and experience without people taking leaps of faith on us. And so if you were listening to this and you were a newer photographer and someone's taking a leap of faith on you, deliver the heck out of it. Be so thankful for that leap. Make it the best experience possible. Get that experience. Make it better. Keep your attitude peaceful, joyful, flexible, and learn, because that is beautiful. We're all constantly learning. On the flip side to that, if you have the budget that allows for a really seasoned, good photographer, the level of professionalism and service that they are going to bring to the table comes with that experience. Navigating those unexpected things. We had a wedding last season where it was rainy, it was windy, it was crazy. The whole vision for this wedding was like outdoor soft spring florals. And let me tell you, the photographer at that wedding nailed it. The bride was feeling kind of emotional. We were keeping everything really calm. We were talking her through it. This is going to be amazing. And the photographer was just like, we're going to take the most Vogue bridesmaid photos. We're going to go into this lobby. We're going to get this perfect cloudy light coming through the window. It's a storm outside, guys. And she was like, we're going to get this perfect light, these perfect photos. We're going to get you on the couch with the light, and it's going to be so Vogue. And then later today, we're going to get our umbrellas. We're going to go out and get these shots, and just kept it so positive. Rolled with the punches, made it happen. We ended up having to actually switch the timeline in that wedding and do cocktail hour first, then ceremony in order to wait till the rain let up. And you guys, it was amazing. And having a seasoned professional photographer who was able to do portraits in an indoor space and turn it into this Vogue moment was key. And then a photographer who was able to be like, we're going to go out with our umbrellas and get some epic rain shots. Some of these shots are just gorgeous. And then, thank goodness, the sun came out. We had the ceremony and she was able to get some of these amazing photos. But also, I then had to start dinner, because chef had been making all of these amazing, fillets and all the things that we were doing. And I couldn't throw off that timeline. So the time for outdoor portraits was so tiny, and she was efficient. She was on it. She was laughing. She was smiling. She was keeping it positive, and it made the biggest difference. So communication, experience, and also you can get a sense when you're talking to someone, how are they carrying themselves? The photographers that we recommend and love are not only doing amazing in the style of work and everything like that, but they're also good to work with on the back end, administratively, with communication, delivering things on time, and then finally on wedding day, contributing to the joy, contributing to the peace, contributing to the problem solving. Because having a professional, not just an artist, is so important. On the flip side, we've had a photographer once take a couple away for sunset photos that was supposed to be 10 minutes, and 30 minutes later, we couldn't find them. And I was running down the beach, finally found the photographer, and I was like, hey, what is going on? Like, we need you guys back. I didn't say that actually. In front of the couple, I was like, hey guys, we've been looking for you. It's time to start those toasts and dances. Let's get going. And in my head, I'm like, what the heck? And what had happened was the photographer is an amazing artist and had got super carried away just in capturing these beautiful moments, and kind of lost track of time. And while I respect getting lost in our art, that doesn't work on wedding day, because that 30 minutes was taking away from the 3-hour band set that we had that had cost tens of thousands of dollars. And so again, on wedding day, it's so important to have that level of professionalism, that understanding of, I have a very finite amount of time to do this. And no matter how perfect the timeline is planned, things come up. And it's important to remember that any one vendor is not operating in a silo. We're operating as a team. Having a professional, seasoned, experienced vendor matters. Finally, personality. You will spend more time with your photographer than with each other on the day of your wedding. And that is just the truth. And it is so important to make sure that your personalities jive. And this is also something that's really subjective. And so this is why we have all of our couples have a Zoom call or an in-person meeting or something with the photographer, the photography team, because it matters. If you are on that first call and you're not feeling like there's sort of a flow of conversation, that it's easy conversation, you feel like it's awkward, you guys, it's probably not the right fit. Some of my couples want a photographer that's like really calming and artistic and a little more quiet because they're going to need to feel really peaceful on their wedding day. I have other couples that need someone who has a very captivating leadership role personality that's going to be managing that big family and keeping things going. And I have others that need someone who's just going to be so joyful and bubbly. And then so we may have one couple meet with one photographer and be like, they're the perfect fit. It was so like bubbly and fun. We just can't wait. And another couple that meets with that same photographer and says, I think they're going to make me feel overwhelmed on my big day. It's important to listen to your gut and make sure that that personality fit is right. Because if you don't feel comfortable with your photographer, you are not going to feel comfortable in those photos, and you're going to see it in the photos at the end of the day. So, style, professionalism, personality. A couple other things to think about that I think are really important is, one, making sure you have a second shooter. I think it's so important to make sure you have someone capturing partner number one and someone capturing partner number two. Someone capturing the details while someone's getting the family shots. Having two people at least makes all the difference in the world for timing, especially if curveballs are thrown your way. In addition to a second shooter, I think it is so important to make sure you have enough coverage. I think sometimes couples go into the budget and you get that first proposal from the photographer and you're like, I'm just going to save some money here. I only need them for 6 hours. Guys, let me tell you, you need a minimum of 8 hours of coverage on your day, unless you are having a super tiny intimate elopement and it's like photos, portraits, ceremony, and a dinner, and it's over. Then maybe then you need 6 hours. But even then, I think you need a minimum of 8 hours. Most of our couples are booking 10 plus hours. And the reason why is not because we want our couples to spend money they don't need to spend. It's because having the right hours of coverage means that the day is not going to feel rushed. It means that if a curveball is thrown our way, that we're going to have the time we need to adjust and do what we need to do. You want your photographer to arrive early. You want to get those first getting ready shots. And I have some couples that are like, I don't need getting ready shots. I'm like, no, you do. Because that's where you are going to start getting comfortable in front of the camera. You don't want the first moment you're in front of the camera to be like, now you're in your portraits. You want to sort of ease into it. You want to tell the story of the day. You have put so much time and effort into this day. You need to capture it in full because, again, that's what you're walking away with. I think that it's important to consult your planner on who your photographer is. And if you don't have a planner, ask your venue, ask your whatever it is, your friends, who did you love to work with? Because when you ask your planner, when someone asks me, who do you love to work with for photography, I'm immediately already thinking about style, personality, professionalism. Do they have a second shooter? Does it work within your budget? All the things, and all of those things together matter. Finally, I think it's really important to have an engagement session. I like to call that your test run with your photographer. Even if you already had photos taken when you got engaged, whatever it is, having a photo session with your photographer ahead of the wedding is such a great way to get to know each other, to get to know how you feel in front of the camera, for them to get to know you and how you feel in front of the camera, and for you guys to all, again, like I love when people do an engagement session and then go out to drinks with their photographer, go out to coffee or whatever, and just get an hour, a couple hours, few hours, whatever that looks like, to get to know each other so that on wedding day, you're not meeting each other for the first time in person. You've gotten that chance to just really sink in, feel comfortable. You get those photos back. You're able to say, I love how we looked in that photo. I'd love to do something similar on wedding day. You're able to have that creative conversation and all get on the same page. Then once you've booked your photographer, it's really important that you communicate your photography desires for the day. Now, there's a very key distinction here. I do not believe in micromanaging a professional at their work. And so I think it's a mistake when couples send multiple pages of photo notes and details and things like that, because that starts to feel a little micromanaging and often stifles creativity. And when too much direction is given, I actually find that the final result suffers. But I also think it's so important to clearly and effectively communicate what's important to you. If you have a really seasoned professional, photographer, they're going to know, of course you need a photo with your parents. Of course you need a photo in those key moments, coming down the aisle, the kiss, all of those are a given. But what your photographer's not going to necessarily know is, what are your family dynamics? Do you want a photo with your parent and your step parent, or your parents, maybe they're divorced? Should there be a photo of them together? Does there need to be a photo of another family member or person in your life that's like really significant? So we often work with our couples to have a family photo shot list, keeping in mind that every single photo you take on your wedding day that's posed is going to take 1 to 2 minutes at least. So if you have 100 photos, that's 200 minutes of family photos. That's not doable. Usually we say have like 5 to 10 groupings max so that you can enjoy your day. But it's important to communicate those nuances, those family things. So when you get that final gallery, you get the photos that you want. Choosing a photographer is a huge decision, and being able to consult with your planner is, I think, really important on who they love to work with. When my couples say, well, who do you love to work with? I'm immediately thinking of style, professionalism, personality, second shooter, engagement session, all the things, right? And if you don't have a planner, asking maybe friends who've gotten married, if they loved their photographer, I think kind of getting that back end kind of scoop is really important, because pretty images on social media is just the first layer. There's so much more that goes into having an amazing team, especially in the photography department. If you have any questions about photography, drop them in the comments, send it to me on social media. We'd love to answer those. Coming up next, we're going to talk about video. That's going to be really fun. We're also going to be talking about music in a coming episode and building that key team to bring your wedding to life. It is such a joy sharing with you, and I hope you all are having an amazing day as you are listening to this, or evening, or wherever you're at. If you're planning a wedding, best of luck as you continue to embark on this journey. If you are a vendor, we are here to empower and encourage you. Send all the comments, all the questions, all the things, and thanks for listening.
Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away.